Now, some political analysts have described Ramaphosa's cabinet as a reflection of his commitment to this government of national unity. Senior reporter Hasina Gori caught up with Professor Sipho Seepe for his take on this enlarged executive.
What it showed is the president's commitment to the idea of a national unity. One needs to remember that initially when the talk started, it became almost a battle of interpretation between the DA and the ANC. And the ANC continued to say, yes, we can understand the notion of the people have spoken and the will of the people and the issue of proportionality of seats. But the ANC continued to hammer on that we must also create an opportunity where the parties are able to work together, which is also what the electorate had actually said. And there was an attempt of brinkmanship from the side of the DA, talking about that we'll settle for no less than so many cabinet posts. But I think there was also a pushback within the ANC, and there was something that suggested that some felt that if the DA wants to walk away, it might be better for the ANC to start looking at those partners that the DA had actually said are no-go areas. So I do think that that level of engagement and the possible threats of what the DA considered to be doomsday eventuality may have propelled the DA to say we will go so far and no further. But the president also had put his foot down. But what has been amazing about this is that here is a president who has been weakened in the polls. Here is a person who has brought the ANC down. But he has used this moment to recraft and to reinvent himself by simply saying, when I talk about a national government of national unity, I mean having many players. And what does he do? He goes to get many players so that when you talk about national conversations, you have a large number of these people having that conversation. But there was also something very clever that he did, with some people may call a stroke of genius, is to say, yes, I understand that I'm weakened politically, but I'll need people who I can enlist to fight my battles. So from what would have been a strong black voice and opposition, he selected people who would be very great soldiers, people who would be ready to go to battle. Bring somebody like Gayton McKenzie, bring somebody like Holomesa, bring in somebody like the PC president. You begin to sophisticate the discussion about really what does it mean when you talk about the black voice. So the opposition, which is mainly the MK and EFF, now have a job cut for them, very serious job. Then the second thing is, by bringing these strong leaders, you're also neutralizing the DA. In a sense, some of us have always argued that had it been left to largely the DA, there would have been a DA-led government. But by bringing the likes of Holomesa, the likes of Gayton McKenzie, what the president has sought to do is so to neutralize this sense of entitlement, this sense of push and triumphalism that you found within the DA. But at the same time, it is really up to all those parties to say, how do we begin to play in this? But we saw promotions and demotions. And what is most important about that is that the president had to be generous by also persuading his own members that if I'm talking about the government of national unity, some of you may not be ministers because I've got to give those positions to other people. So you saw people like Mondli Ngobele, who used to occupy a very senior position as a minister in the presidency, and pushed out of that, now demoted to the position of a deputy minister. You saw people like Sikes Galala, who has been doing excellent work, being also being told that the chief maybe for the national interest, you may have to take a bit of a nosedive. So these are some of the intricate things that he had to deal with. And of course, he had to keep some people. You cannot have Ramaphosa without Mantashe. You cannot have Ramaphosa without Braden Zimande, because these are the real people who will create enough weight within the ANC alliance in terms of the discussion. So in a sense, the president owes his presidency right now to people like Gwede, because as a chairperson, he can dictate what gets discussed and how long it's going to be discussed. So he kept those people like Angie, who had been long and had stabilized the basic education. He couldn't just get rid of her. He had to find a place for her, and he took her to defense. But given that this is not her forte, he decided to say, no, I'll bring Bantu Holomisa. And of course, some people have argued that why couldn't you give him a ministerial position? And so given that Holomisa is a person who has always been constructively critical, whenever he's called to serve in government, in the various commissions, he has always done an excellent work. So the fact that he didn't get a ministerial position is something that was in itself strange. But on the whole, one could actually say the president has actually done well in keeping to his promise of saying, I'm going to create a government of national unity. That's the first one. Secondly, he has also been concerned about his own durability in government by making sure that I have enough people who are going to fight battles for me, and I also have enough people who are going to neutralize the triumphalist tone of the DA.
As you've given us quite a comprehensive look at what we saw last night taking place, giving us context as well. And as we've been saying from the very beginning, it's been something that's been touted that this election was really a dawn of a new democracy. And now this is that democracy in action. What can we look out for as we going forward? What are some of the pitfalls that both President Ramaphosa should look out for while we go into this new era, as well as us as the nation, as the electorates? What are some of the concerns that you may have?
Well, the first thing that we must understand is that politics is not a place for people to be nice to each other. It's a very bloody sport. And most people go into government and go into politics to access power. So the parties that are there in the government of national unity, they also have their own agenda. I mean, Helen Zille has been consistent that during her lifetime, she'll see the ANC dead. So it does not mean that suddenly she'll want to see the ANC continue its life or prolong its existence. So she has her own agenda, which is also to respond to her own constituency. Ramaphosa also has his own constituency, which I hope is not going to sell out on, which is, I've been talking about issues of redress, issues of land. And in a sense, you could see that those portfolios that would have been very critical, he has sought to make sure that they remain within the ANC, like labor and employment, like finance, like trade and industry, because those are the areas or portfolios where there's more discussion around the black economic empowerment, where there's talk about economic transformation. So he has made sure that that is within so he also has an interest in the same way that the ANC has an interest, in the same way that others have. But the problem will come when each ministry wants to use the position to advance themselves with an eye into the future, where the person says, and that is also the position of other parties, that once we get into power, closer to power, will be represented in the legislature, will be represented in the executive, and will be able to pursue our own programs. So that will be a challenge. That to what extent are parties willing to subject or subordinate their own interest and inclination to what may be good for the country. But for the voters, especially the black voters who have punished the ANC, they've been very clear that for 30 years we gave you a chance, and that today we remain landless. Today the color of poverty is black, the color of unemployment is black, the color of hopelessness is black. So you need to do something. How he's going to maneuver that is where the real politics comes in, because when he had 100% ministers from the ANC and he had control, he couldn't deliver. The question, will he be able to deliver? And these parties that are there will be looking at opportunities to also use the positions to gain political traction so that come the next election, they come out better.